There's a distance between us. It's getting hard to reach out. Haven't seen you in seasons, but all I hear is your voice. I know my limits, you can break me down, but I'll stay till the finish line. And I've been counting minutes for quite some time now, just to see you again. And I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see you again. Been finding ways to get away, to see you again, see you again. We got millions of reasons to let it all go. Hope we're not too broken. I know I'm not always strong, and I've been counting days to get away, to see you again, see
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a slightly different version of RAM Reviews. This time, I'm going to be doing a world's mid laner ranking, like sort of like a tier list, ranking the world's mid laners. And joining me will be an LCS mid laner, recently qualified, Caedrel. He was the mid laner for Schalke, I believe the only representing UK player in the LCS right now, since Kasing is not there anymore.
Alfari and Maxwell, no?
Oh, Alfari and Maxlor, never mind. You're not special.
No.
So the first UK mid laner to be in the LCS, though, as far as I know. So how are you doing, Caedrel?
I'm pretty good. How are you, dude?
I'm excellent. I was just talking to a couple of people, and I remember you tweeted something out about it, that mid lane at the current Worlds, even though it's not really a mid lane meta, seems like a very stacked role.
Yeah, I mean, I think mid's not as useful as it was in Season 6. Like, it's more about bot lane now and having hyper carries and protect comp, kind of. So mid lane's still quite useful, but the players in Worlds are pretty good, yeah.
I mean, I would say definitely more than pretty good. Like, if I'm looking down this list, there's a lot of really well-known players, and I think that when we're talking about, mid lane pool, it's probably the most impressive and, the closest that I've actually ever seen it, off the top of my head. We're going to start ranking the mid laners. So there's 16 teams at Worlds, but we're going to rank 17 mid laners. The reason for this is that Team AHQ have a system in which they regularly actually swap Chowie and Westor. So I would consider them both active mid laners at Worlds, and they do need to be listed. So there will be 17 mid laners on the list, and we're going to start from rank 17 and work our way up. So for my rank 17, I list Westor.
I agree, yeah.
All right, you're going to list Westor as well, and
Yeah.
in my tier list for the players of the LMS, LCK, and LPL, Westor was actually on D tier, and the thing is that there's a lot of things that come into play, and the criteria is team fighting, laning, champion pool, and stuff, and Westor is just mediocre in all forms. His champion pool of TF and Fizz, they just don't apply in the current meta.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the mid laner, you tell me Fizz, TF, just not really the meta of champions on 718, are they?
No, it's not. His champ pool is pretty horrible, and his performance has been pretty poor since Season 5, so that's why he's on the bench most of the time, but yeah.
Yeah. Every time that Westor plays, he also plays the same champions that Chowie plays.
Yeah. But
they don't really
plays him better.
Yeah, and Chowie's just better at them, like Orianna, Syndra, Cassio, Lucian. Chowie's just better at them, so Westor is the last place mid laner, unfortunately. Who is your rank 16?
I mean, I don't like putting him here because he played decently at MSI, but I think Optimus is 16th. I mean, I haven't seen much about him recently, and we're going to have to see how he performs at Worlds, but I think that he would be probably 16th just because it's based on region mainly.
I think I'd agree with you, and the reason I'll just put Optimus as well is I think that Chowie's really slept on as a mid laner, and this particular spot really was the battle between Optimus and Chowie, considering the pedigree of the people that we had. I also think that since MSI, looking back on Gigamite Marines and their split, they have been playing worse. Optimus in particular has been playing worse. So I agree. And also his champion pool is a bit suspect. He does like to play stuff like Fizz, and he will back away from the carries and doesn't play them as well as his Fizz and the kind of crazy style that Gigamite's Marines play. He also did pull out Zed at MSI, so he likes to pull off, but I think his unpredictability is going to put him low.
I agree.
Rank 15, I put Chowie. Reason being, he's just better than the bottom two. But I don't think there's anything about Chowie that really puts him above the other mid laners on the list. I think he's a solid player. He's consistent in what he does bring, but he doesn't bring anything special. But what he does bring is just overall solid gameplay, which unfortunately just puts him just above the bottom two.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is rank 15. What's your rank 14? And why?
My rank 14 is Power of Evil. I think he's an EU mid who's really good, and he's top 5 in his region, but I think that coming into Worlds, he's one of the bottom tier mid laners, simply because there is so much talent in Worlds right now in mid lane, and I have to put PoE here, for sure.
People are going to complain that it's the same list. I actually do agree that Power of Evil is 15, and the reason is that I think Power of Evil is a good mid laner. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good mid laner, and ranking him over here does not say he's a bad mid laner. It's just that we really have to think in the grand scheme of things, he isn't the most impressive solo player. You know? What I think of Power of Evil, alright, whenever I thought about Power of Evil, I never thought about this insane carry player, like a huge playmaker. I always thought that he's just a solid player, does his job, has a decent champion pool, kind of has like these wacky builds, but for the most part is never going to lose you a game. But I don't think that he's the main carry of Misfits. When Misfits really do well, it's off Hansama, off Alfari, but Power People's a really good... what's the word I'm looking for? He's a really good... I wouldn't say supportive mid laner. It's more like he's a really good enabler for his team. He's just a rock. But the thing is, just being a rock isn't enough to really shine in this tier list, in the list as well. But I hope people don't get the wrong idea with us riding him solo. So what's like your reasons for Power of Evil? Like, what do you think that he would need to do in order to be pushed up in this list?
I don't know. His performance in EU, the split, has actually been one of his best performances. Like, he's been performing really well. His like CS differentials are really good. His performance is pretty good. But like, I've never really seen him carry a game, like you said. Like, Handsome and Alfari are normally the people that carry the game, and then like PoE is just this rock who just always is consistent. But his consistency level isn't as high as most of the other EU mids. And coming into Worlds, there is just so much talent that I think.
Like, he's definitely more consistent than Caps. He's definitely more consistent than Caps, sure. But he's not anywhere near, in my opinion, as consistent as Featherthin. Or what's the word? Or Featherthin, right? I think that Featherthin and Perks are just better mid laners in consistency than Power of Evil, and then they also have their carry factor, which he doesn't really seem to have. We'll just have to see at Worlds. My rank 14 is Jie, World Elite's mid laner.
Mine's Frozen, I think.
Okay, so let me talk a little about Jie. I think that Jie is a solid mid laner, but again, he's World Elite's mid laner. He gets kind of clapped around by the other mid laners in China, Scout and Zhao. Unfortunately for him, Zhao and Scout are in the top 10 for most of people's lists in Worlds. But I think that, especially after the... even though WE has had a good showing in their matches in the play-ins, I think that GA performed a lot worse than someone like Mystic and Condi. I think Mystic and Condi are like the real star players of that team, and GA is just like overall solid. But again, we're talking grand scheme of things, the 17 mid laners at Worlds, everything I think out of the bottom, like out of the top 14, they're all super close. And what makes you think that Frozen is the worst coming in here?
I mean, I think Sia is just better because he's got more international experience. Like this year, MSI, he was the first one to put out the Lucian mid, and he like completely destroyed Faker with it. And since then, Lucian mid just became meta because he just simply like popped off so hard with it. And like that was probably his most impressive performance since then. Like he's not done that many impressive performances, but if you look at his like overall stats, he's doing pretty good. Like he's not like losing the game alone, but he's doing pretty decent. And I think that he can have games where he does carry alone, and in the World's playing stage, he played pretty well as well. So I think that puts him a little bit above Frozen because he hasn't had any international experience yet, and he's been in Turkey for a split, so you don't know how good he is compared to these kind of top tier mid laners rather than wildcard mid laners.
The thing is that I think that Frozen is more mechanically superior to GA, and his laning is better. I definitely just want to see like the group that Frozen is in is a really tough one as well. If I'm not mistaken, he's in Group C. Which is it? Group C, Fenerbahce. It's with Crown, Perks, and Zhao.
Is he?
Yeah, Frozen is in a group with Crown, Perks, and Zhao. So it's going to be really hard for him to perform in that group. But if he does perform in that group, it solidifies himself that hey, just because I'm in Turkey doesn't mean that I'm bad.
Yeah.
My rank. So what would your rank 13 be? Or is it? Are we on 12 now?
Mine would be C.
Yeah, it would be. It would actually be GA.
Yeah, mine would be Sia. Just
yours would be GA. So you think that GA is just above Frozen?
Yeah, just because of his international performance at MSI. Like at MSI, this guy played pretty well, I think. So that gives him like the extra credit to be above Frozen, I think.
Okay, I think it's Maple. Now, a lot of people are going to say like, wait, hang on, it's like Maple, like the same Maple that we're talking about. Maple has traditionally always done super well in Worlds and international stages, but that was always coming off a good split in the LMS. This year, this split specifically in the LMS. Maple came off a really, really rough split, which makes me think that he's not either adapted to the playstyle that's necessary, and maybe has a hard time struggling. So how would you rate Maple versus ZA, or Maple in general?
I mean, Maple's been around for a long time. You know, he's played at like 2 or 3 Worlds now with Flash Wolves, and every single time he's been performing pretty well. Like he's always been matching up to Faker, and when the games that Flash Wolves actually took off SKT, sometimes it was Maple who was stepping up. You know, I think Maple is a pretty top tier international mid laner. I think he's got so much experience behind him, and he's just overall pretty good.
But you think that he's a lot better than the people that you've put before him.
I mean, I think Maple's a few ranks higher than where you've put him. So, I mean, I think he's much better than most mid laners at this tournament. At least the bottom 7 or 8 at least. So I rate him a little bit higher.
The thing is that I have to consider as well that like how people have performed in the past and how they're performing right now. I think that right now Maple is not the same level that he was, but he could totally become that same level, right? He could totally hit that peak and then become like a beast.
Yeah, like against the HQ in the finals, like he played really, really well. Like I think he played like Corki 3 games in a row, but every single game he was rock solid, like carrying from his lane and doing really well. So like I think Maple's performance is yet to be seen, but I think he's just as good as he was last year.
Also, got to consider that the mid laners he's playing against, Chowie and Westor, are not the best. He's not really
That's
punished.
true.
He's not really punished in LMS. He will be punished really hard, I think, in his group, or maybe not so hard. He's got Bjergsen in his group. Okay, he's got Bjergsen and GA in his group, and Power of Evil. So I think that Maple versus Bjergsen is going to be the big match. Well, any good mid laner against Bjergsen is going to be a good match because Bjergsen is insane on his own. So I think Maple really does need to perform against not only the other two players, Power of Evil and GA. He really needs to pull it against Bjergsen more than anything. My next one's going to be Frozen. I think that the level of play that Frozen brings to the TCL is ridiculous. Like he is the best player in the TCL by a lot. Him and Move are the win condition of Fenerbahce. He doesn't have Move now, he has Crash. And judging by like the way that they actually played in their group against some of the teams there, I think that Frozen is going to have not only show a lot of people up in his group, he's going to be probably the best performing player on Fenerbahce in his group against probably some of the best mid laners going to Worlds at all. Who's your count? What's your counter?
I
Rank
might get
11.
flames for this, but I think mine's Pobelter. Like, he's been to Worlds once last year, I think, with CLG, or the year before, I can't remember. But I remember his performance wasn't good. I don't think they made it out of groups, and that's the only international experience he's had. This is like his first Worlds with like a proper, like, better team, I think, with Immortals. But I mean, his solo queue is really good. Like in solo queue, he's really insane. Like, and in playoffs, he was playing decently. But I think that internationally, I'm not sure. I'm not sold on Pobelter yet.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Pobelter, that split against CLG, actually, he came off a dominating final against... He really did play well against Bjergsen. That was, like, I think Bjergsen's only real slump. That was a TSM slump more than the Bjergsen slump. But that's actually quite interesting that you put Pobelter so low. Because I actually think that Caps is below Pobelter. He's actually the person I put up next. And I know we talked about it because I think that Caps has the potential to be like an insanely talented mid laner. Like Caps could on a good day, Caps could be top 5. On a bad day, Caps could be Westor.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I put Caps in the exact same spot. Like, I think Caps is just better than Pobelter purely because you never know what's going to happen with Caps. Like, yeah, granted, he does have those games where he gets solo killed by a wildcard mid laner or like he just runs it down for fun. But there are some games where Caps, like, he just literally takes over the game, and it's not that he just takes over mid lane, but he takes over side lanes and he takes over the enemy jungle, and the game is unplayable from that point onwards when Caps starts snowballing.
Yeah, like
So,
his rise
I mean,
in Casio.
Yeah, that's why I want to put him higher, but like just simply because of the international wildcard games. Like the only dominant game I think he had was in the best of 5. He had like 2 or 3 dominant games in the 3-0 sweep, but like in the best of 1s, he wasn't performing as good as he normally does. So that's why I put him a bit lower than normal. I would normally put him at least top 10, top 9, but I'm not sure yet.
Okay, I think that's fair. I mean, we both agree that Caps' inconsistencies are really what's holding him back. And now I put Pobelter up next. I think Pobelter in the top 10 makes sense to me. I think that he's had an insanely good split. He's just shown himself to be like a strong position of IMT. He's really just been second fiddle to pretty much Bjergsen. He can go toe-to-toe with Jensen on a really good day. I think that Jensen has performed better than him, and Jensen is a better player than him. But Pobelter is the best North American mid laner to ever play, in my opinion, and he deserves a spot in the top 10. Who's your counters? So
I
now
put
we're
Maple here.
okay. So now we're hitting I think it's a top 10 now, right? We're in.
This
we
is
just
like the mid
yeah.
mark, no?
No, this is 9. We're on 9, and I think that Pobelter both Cax. So you think Maple is in the top 10?
Yeah, I think Maple's probably 9 simply because, like I said, he's really consistent in international events. Like I've never seen it where Maple actually like really hardened. Like I think there was one game against Faker where he was playing LeBlanc against Casio, and Faker started Corruption Potion for the first time, and then he
Yeah.
just got stomped into the ground. I think that's the only game where Maple's actually really lost the game for his team, but most of the time Maple's doing really well, and I think, yeah, he's had like a year and a half or 2 years of international experience, and I mean, this is like halfway to the top 17 or something, so I think he's like the rock in the middle, if that makes sense.
Maple's always been a really good player. The only reason I put him so low is I'm just trying to consider his current split. But like again, like Maple on his best day, on like when he's on form, is a top 10 mid laner in the world for sure. Especially coming out of LMS, which doesn't have the best mid laners or best players in general. So he's really does deserve to be up there. Personally, I put up next is Jensen.
Mine is Jensen as well.
Oh, nice. So the thing is, like, I think that Jensen is a really solid mid laner. Like, when I think about Jensen as a player, I can't really think of any particular weakness. He just seems to do a lot really well, and a lot of people would actually put him above Bjergsen in terms of individual skill. Yeah, I know he gets memed a lot. The whole, like, Echo not pressing Chrono Break, he's going to get memed about that for the rest of his life. But the truth is that C9 only got that close to beating TSM because of Jensen, right? They took it to a game 5. They made the 5th game super close, and if it was literally just down to him pressing R a little bit earlier, that's literally that separated him from winning that game. Jensen is the best or second best mid laner in NA and has been ever since after his rookie split, I think. What do you think about Jensen as a player? He's obviously European, so you know him, yeah.
Yeah, like he's just taking over NA really. Like I think Jensen is just he's like Bjergsen in a way, but he controls the game less, but he's more aggressive, if that makes sense. Like that.
Yeah.
Jensen will always have a CS lead, no matter what. Like this guy will always play under your tower in your face and make sure that he's winning mid. So yeah, I'd like to see how that playstyle works out.
I've just been told that it's actually pronounced Jensen and not Jensen. I lagged there for a second. What's stopping Jensen from being in the top 5?
I mean, he hasn't got much international experience again. Like we've only really seen him in NA and playoffs and finals and stuff like that. I mean, they went to Worlds last year, I think, right? That was the only thing they did. I think I can't remember how he went to Worlds last year, but I honestly can't remember.
They had
a different jungler, right? They had high in jungle or something.
Yeah, they had high, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, his jungler was off roll, which kind of blows. But I mean, I guess high was doing pretty fine. But like now he has a really solid team. You know, like they've been practicing together, same roster for at least a split, or 2 splits. So we'll see how they perform this time. So I think it's mainly his team. I mean, if his team's doing well, I think Jensen's really insane that he can take over the game.
I think that Jensen, the only thing that I think I'm going to put him behind any one of the mid laners that we're going to put up next is his domestic success. He's never won a title. He's always been close, but he's never won a title. Sure. Whereas the mid laners that we're putting up have won multiple or even a lot of titles in their domestic regions, or have good international success for whatever reason. Which is where I'm going to come in to the next one. In my opinion, it's Crown, which is a little bit weird for a lot of people because... Wait, who's yours first off?
Mine's Xiaohu.
So you're going to put Xiaohu over here.
Yeah.
So the thing is that Crown, if you guys saw this tier list just after you watched Worlds last year and you saw me put Crown over here, I would be the laughing stock of like everything. Because Crown solidified himself as like the second best mid laner in the world last year. The problem is that was last year. And Crown lately is awful. Has been playing really shit. If you take a look at the games that have been played, I remember Kelsey Moser was tweeting about it, so I went and looked back. Ambition has spent probably 2 or 3 times more time around mid simply pushing out the wave because Crown cannot get priority on his own. Now, I thought that she was overreacting. In the series that they beat KT, Pawn was getting priority over Crown in mid lane, in the early stages of the laning phase. You might argue that's because Score's better than Ambition. But I actually don't think Crown has been playing very well on the second half of summer at all. And because of that, he drops lower. It's interesting that you put Xiaohu so low. What's your take on that?
I mean, just going back to the Crown thing, I think the Crown's only real poor performance was against SKT, where they just got stomped and he was just inting, like he was just getting stomped by Faker. I think that's the only time he's ever really underperformed most of the time this split. I mean, I haven't checked the statistics or anything, but from an outsider's view of just the player, I can see he's doing decently. Like, not top level, but he's been doing decent. And Crown normally steps up towards Worlds and stuff, so I think he'll still perform at Worlds. Like, I'm pretty excited for him to actually do well. And Xiaohu, like, I don't know. I'm really not sure on Xiaohu. Like, I really do think that some of the Korean mid laners are still better than him, and he still has a bit more to prove with RNG. But I think his jungler is really good, though. I think MLXG is really, really good, and he's really good with Xiaohu. And I think like those two together are pretty good. But I mean, I have much LPL, but as far as I think most mid laners who remain are still a bit better than Xiaohu.
It's actually interesting that you consider MLXG better, good jungler, because a lot of people would consider him the probably worst performing jungler in across the three teams between Condi and Clearlove.
Yeah, I think he's not the best Chinese jungler, but I think like when this guy's on like carry junglers like Kha'Zix, Lee Sin, and Rengar and stuff, this guy's really insane. But the meta's not really great for him. But like when this guy's on a carry jungler, I think he performs really insane. Like
I think that's fair.
Was it last year, MSI or something?
Yeah, it was.
When
MXG,
he played with
yeah.
Mata, like he was just stomping with Lee Sin and stuff. So
he's very coin flip.
Yeah.
Though the thing is that the reason I have Crown up so high, is that he could easily be top 3 in the world. The problem is that he hasn't really shown anyone that he can perform that way. Personally, I think that Xiaohu was ranked too low, considering how well he played in China, how strong he is as a mid laner, but obviously this is where we get to have our own opinions. My next player is going to be another Chinese mid laner, or Scout. I think that Scout, just below the top 5. Who would you put as rank 6?
I put Bjergsen in rank 6, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting,
Just
okay.
Simply because, like, I mean, Bjergsen is praised as the best mid laner in the West, and I think I think he is the best mid laner in the West. That's why he's the highest mid laner in the West, kind of. I still think Perks is better than Bjergsen just because of MSI this year, where Perks was showing up against Faker, and I think Bjergsen normally does show up at Worlds, but maybe it's his team that lets him down, but he never really does have that really wow performance in an international event, I think. I think the last time he did was probably IEM when they won. Remember this against W?
Yeah. Scout.
That was the last time where,
The thing is, like, I actually have Bjergsen right above Scout, and the reasoning that... So Bjergsen is actually my 5th, and I'm just going to write it down so that people know that what I'm talking about. We can go into the next one later.
I put Scout here as well.
So you actually swapped them around. Okay,
Yep.
So the reason that I actually have Bjergsen above Scout is that Scout has very high highs and also quite lows. But the thing is that Bjergsen is always so consistent. He's always so solid no matter what happens. He has never lost TSM a game. He has never slumped. He has never had a bad split. Bjergsen has always been on top of his game, on top of his region. The guy has won 5, has been to every single NALCS final that he's gone to. Hasn't won them all, but he's been to every single one since 2014. I think, or is it 2013? It was 2014? Whatever, 2014. The guy's a beast. And the only thing that's separating Scout from Bjergsen is that I think that Scout is just, if I think about who's playing on EDG, right? Clearlove, Scout, iBoy, or Zet, I think, and their support Mako. Scout isn't really the one that wins games on his own. He does get a lot of support from his jungler and his support. Yep. But Scout is a really solid mid laner, and the only reason I put Bjergsen above Scout is his consistency plays a big part, and his domestic success is a huge part. Scout did win China with EDG this split, so why do you think Scout's better than Bjergsen?
I just think Scout's like so mechanically talented. Like this guy is really gifted, and he's really well, like good in lane, and he's always winning lane, and he's just a really solid carry. Like Bjergsen, I agree, he's really solid. Like he's been really dominant throughout his domestic career, but like I said, like I think Scouts can just show up at Worlds and he'll perform really well. Like I don't know, I just have like this hunch that Scouts is just really good.
I think Scout will perform well at Worlds, but the thing is you have to also remember that the group he's in. He's got to go against Faker, Jensen, and Westdoor Chowie, obviously. But these are 2 mid laners that are in the top 10. So
it'll be interesting to see Scout against Faker actually, because they're on the same team.
Exactly, Scout against Faker is like the easy Hoon against Faker matchup, which is a huge deal. My rank 4 is Perks.
Yeah, mine's Perks as well.
I mean, Perks has had a slump that separates him from Bjergsen, and that's why this has been a really difficult choice for me. To why I put Perks above Bjergsen. The reason I did it is that Bjergsen has been to every NALCS final, but Perks has won every EULCS final that he's been in. G2 had the best domestic success. Perks is an insane mid laner. He's the best mid laner in EU. When he's on point, and he is on point right now, he's absolutely insane. They don't call him the Lane Kingdom for nothing. I think that he's very deserving of a top 5 spot, and the reason I put him above Bjergsen is I think that Perks will have a lot more to prove in his group. He's against BDD and Crown. No, not Crown. BDD. No. Fuck.
Against
Sorry.
Crown
BDD and Xiaohu. Crown and Xiaohu. Sorry, Crown and Xiaohu. I'm mixing myself up.
Crown and Xiaohu.
Crown and Xiaohu. I really think that Perks just slightly edges out Bjergsen. Like, really slightly. But you actually have Perks two levels above Bjergsen, so talk to me about that. Because I think that Perks, Bjergsen, Scout are, like, all close together, so why would you put Perks above all of them?
I mean, Perks simply because he was able to stand up to Faker at MSI, and, like, he was actually winning lane against Faker most of the games in the best of 5, like, it was 4 games or something. He was actually standing up to Faker and winning his lane, and he just... over the course of summer as well, like, I mean, he did have a slump after MSI, but I think, yeah, Perks has regained his form, and it showed in the finals against Misfits, which, I mean, it's not a good measurement, but I really do think Perks is on form for the Worlds, yeah.
I think it's also less about Perks having a slump and more G2 as a whole having a slump, because when G2 doesn't perform well, it's all of them, not just Perks. But when Perks performs really well, it's dominating, it's explosive, unlike... when Bjergsen has, in my opinion, lately as well, has not been a very explosive player. He's just been always really good. And I think that that explosive type of gameplay is really big. My rank 3 is Xiaohu.
My rank 3 is Crown.
So you think Crown is high. So I think that Xiaohu is the best performing mid laner in China. He's insanely mechanically gifted. He's super strong in many positions and many times that he's played. I think that a lot of people are going to be really surprised about Xiaohu and how well he's going to perform. But you have Crown really high, and I have Crown's about four places lower. Tell me why you think Crown deserves the top 3 spot, especially considering his current split and current form.
I mean, I never lose faith in Crown ever since Worlds last year. Like, this guy, he's really, really good. And last year he did prove that he was the second best mid laner in the world, and I think maybe he's had a slump towards the end of Summer Split, and I think in the SKT series he played really horrible, but you could see emotionally that it was damaging him how badly he played, and he's the kind of guy that once he does perform this badly, he's going to step it up for Worlds, and you know that. And you could see against KT, I mean, he was playing decently, and maybe he didn't get mid-pressure as much as he used to, but, I mean, he was playing and doing his job, so I think that he will step it up for Worlds, and it's the same as last year. Like, Crown will always step up for Worlds, I think.
I think that's a fair thing to say. It's just that we do have to consider both sides of the coin. Like, what if he doesn't show up? And, like, you never know, like, considering the current situation. But I think that everyone is kind of looking at Crown to show up, because he did go from being, like, the second best mid laner in the world to pretty abysmal performance. And I really do hope for his team and for Samsung's sake that he does perform. This is where it gets really interesting, because we did disagree on the top 2 spots. The last 2 players before that listed are
it's horrible
BDD.
what I'm doing, but it's pretty horrible what I'm doing. But I think Faker is second this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that Faker is second?
Yeah.
I think that VDD is second and Faker is first.
I mean, Faker has won 3 world championships. Like, it's so hard to put him second, but I think BDD is just playing out of his mind in the finals. Like, I've never seen someone play so well in my life. Like, I think BDD is so good, and I think that when it comes to Worlds, BDD is going to show up really hard.
I think that BDD is a really good performing, is a really strong mid laner. He doesn't really seem to have many weaknesses. He plays a lot of different champions. He's good on a lot of matchups. I don't think, though, that he is better than Faker. And the thing is that, like, I've always been the guy to just count SKT out. SKT aren't as good. Faker is overrated. Faker's washed up. And every time I've done it, I've gotten burnt. Like,
yeah.
Faker is the best League of Legends player in the world.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I know he is the best, but I really think that this time around in this Worlds, in this season, 2017, I think BDD is going to outperform Faker at Worlds, and I just have this hunch that BDD is going to show up. I think the only thing that can hold BDD back is if he gets nervous or something because it's Worlds, or he just chokes, but I really don't think he's going to choke. Like, if he plays this well in the finals in front of the audience, then I really don't think BDD is going to choke.
But, like, it's BDD's first Worlds, whereas Faker has just always been a god at Worlds. Every Worlds he's been to, he's just destroyed. True. It's like, I feel like, I'm not trying to, like, push down your opinion, because they are the two best players in the world, mid laners in the world in their respective region. They are the two best in the world. They're the two best, but it's just so difficult for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, to look and think BDD is better than Faker. And
yeah, it's hard to accept, I think.
However, and I will say this, if there was ever a time for Faker to be shown up by another mid laner, and it would only be now is the closest it's ever going to be, and
Yes,
BDD is the best candidate for it. A lot of people say Crown's going to show up Faker, or this guy's going to show up Faker, or Pawn's going to show up Faker, or blah, blah, blah. It's never been that close. BDD and at Longzhu are probably the best chance at not seeing SKT win Worlds again.
I completely agree. I think this is the best chance any other team has to beat SKT at Worlds with Faker. I think next year or whatever, if Longzhu fails to actually take down SKT, then I think there is not going to be another team in at least a few years to be able to take down SKT.
Will be disgusting. A disgusting World Finals in terms of, like, I'm actually really hyped for it. And
like
before we...
Rocks Tigers versus SKT was hype. I think if it's Longzhu versus SKT, that's way more hype.
That could be pretty insane. So let's talk a little bit about the matchups that we're going to see at Worlds. Taking a look at the groups, let's start with Group A. We have SKT, EDG, AHQ, and C9 there. The mid lane matches that we're going to see are going to be Faker versus Scout, Scout versus Jensen, and Jensen versus Faker. I don't count Westor or Chowie in there because I think that considering that they're so far below, it's not really as important. So tell me which of these mid laner matchups, like, who do you think gets the edge in those matchups?
It's pretty obvious. It's going to be Faker that's just going to be something. I think Scouts will be second, Jensen will be third, but I could be proven wrong. You never know. C9 could take down EDG. It's possible, but I'm not sure.
So what do you think Jensen does worse than Scout? Because we both had Jensen below Scout on the list. What would Jensen have to improve or do to beat Scout, in your opinion?
That's a hard question, I guess. I mean, I think it's more about beating Scout and Clear Love. I think Jensen and Contracts just need to beat Scout and Clear Love. I think that's more of a 2v2 game rather than a 1v1 lane. Because I think in lane they're probably really both quite even in lane. But I think outside of lane is where it needs to show up, and I think it's more going to be down to communication.
Okay. I'm going to have to agree with you. I think that it's definitely got to be how well Contracts and Jensen deal with Scout. But the thing is that you also have to remember it's not just Scout and Clear Love. It's also Scout, Clear Love, and Mako.
Mako, yeah.
Mako does a lot of roam into mid, but so does Smoothie. And their top laners also play around mid. The thing is that every single player on EDG and every single player on C9 plays for their mid laners. And that's why this is like a matchup that I really like highlighting, because it's also going to be how well the team plays around each of their mid laners, because it's never going to be a 1v1. Mid lane is no longer a 1v1. Okay, Group B, we have Longzhu, IMT, Gigabyte, Marines, and Fnatic. So the exciting matches that we're going to see are going to be BDD against Caps, BDD against Pobelter against Caps, and pretty much that.
And then Optimus, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really count Optimus because I think he's so low. I think that all the mid laners are very capable of taking them out. Tell me about Pobelter versus Caps, because I think BDD is significantly better than both Caps and Pobelter. Oh, actually, the question is, do you think Caps on a good day can beat BDD?
Oh, Caps on a good day versus BDD, I'd pay to see something like that. That would be really insane to watch. Like, I think if Caps really does step up against Longzhu, there is a small possibility of a victory there, but I'm really not sure. I think Longzhu is just so good in every role, like Khan versus Soaz, Prey versus Reckless. I really don't know. I don't know if they'd be able to beat them, but I think Caps versus BDD would be really entertaining.
The question is, do you think Caps on a good day would be better than BDD?
No.
You think BDD, no matter what, is going to be better than Caps?
I think so, yeah.
Fair? I mean, that's totally fair. Caps against Pobelter. What is it about this matchup that would say excites you? Because we both actually have, you have Pobelter right below Caps. I have Pobelter right above Caps. What do you think is it going to take for one mid laner to go more than the other, in the 1v1 at least?
I mean, Caps will win in the 1v1, I think. I think, hands down, Caps 1v1 on a good day is really, really good. He's top 5, I think. So I think if it's just a straight 1v1 farm fiesta, Caps will have the advantage. But if it comes to 2v2 and then Broxa gets involved and stuff like this, and then supports get involved, I really don't know who wins that one. But I think in a straight 1v1, Caps will win on a good day.
I agree. I think Caps is a better 1v1 player, but the thing is that I think that Pobelter x Smithy Ole are much more consistent and much better than Caps, Jezzes, and Broxa. I think Broxa is really hit or miss. Xsmithy is always solid, always strong. He knows exactly what he needs to do for his players. I think that's going to be a big turning point on that matchup for sure. Let's talk about Group C. We have Crown against Xiaohu against
Bjergsen, right?
Bjergsen's
No,
Group
it's
D.
Perks, yeah.
Perks? So it's Crown, Perks, Frozen, and Xiaohu.
Pretty stacked.
That's a really stacked mid lane pool. So we're going to highlight pretty much every mid lane matchup there, okay? And I'm just going to write it down if you scroll down. Crown versus Perks. Perks versus, wait, what's the name again? Frozen. Frozen versus Xiaohu. Xiaohu versus Crown. Frozen versus Crown. Like, it's just so hard to even list it out because there's just like every single game is going to have a super hype mid lane matchup.
Yeah.
So wait, did I list them all? I didn't list them all. Crown versus Perks. I'm missing something. Perks versus Xiaohu.
News.
And Crown versus Perks. Okay, I think I got everything here.
Let's talk about Perks twice.
I have Crown versus Perks twice. It's just I'm so hyped for it. I can't even focus. Did I get everything?
Perks. Oh, no, you have this one as well. Okay.
Frozen versus Perks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, let's talk about first Crown versus Perks. This is the real matchup that I think a lot of people.
Yeah,
are
I think
going
this
to.
is the best one maybe. I'm not actually. Xiaohu's pretty good as well. I don't know which one the best one is.
On a good day, on a good Crown day, Crown versus Perks. What do you think? Crown on back to form.
Crown on top. Crown on 2016.
Last year, 2016 Crown against current Perks.
It's 2016 versus current Perks. It's pretty close, but I think 2016 Crown wins. But I think 2017 Crown. It's hard to say because Perks is so good, but I really think Crown might be able to win it if he plays up to his form.
I think that if Crown doesn't step up a lot, Perks wins this matchup easily. I think that is really going to be how well Ambition covers Crown more than anything to cover the weaknesses. Crown is still in his current situation is still a solid team fighter, and if they get to the team fight, Samsung does have the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Perks versus Frozen. Now, I don't think that there's anyone denying that G2 beat FB. On paper, G2's win condition is their mid jungle, and they have a super strong bot lane to help win the game for them. FB's bot lane has been suspect, and their win condition is the mid jungle. And I think Trick Perks are a lot more consistent than Crash Frozen. But let's talk specifically about the 1v1. Do you think Frozen stands up to Perks at all?
No, I think Perks wins this 1v1.
Hard?
Hands down, yeah. Not hard, but just hands down. Perks is just flat out winner, I think, here.
Okay. Frozen versus Xiaohu. Now, this is an interesting matchup because it's just not two players that you'd actually ever see against each other except for Worlds. I think that Xiaohu is an insane mid laner, and he has the potential to really dominate this lane with MLXG. And I think it will just depend on MLXG more than anything, actually.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But the thing is also that Xiaohu doesn't even need to win lane to win this game. He's got Uzi against...
That's true.
What, Padden and Japon?
Yeah,
like,
he has Uzi.
Uzi...
Free ticket to top 8, I think.
Uzi against Padden and Japon is I think the biggest mismatch next to West Door against Faker. I think that's the only bigger mismatch. That's a huge mismatch.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Xiaohu versus Crown.
That's a close one too, but I think if Crown's on form, Crown will win. I think Crown is the best mid in the group if he performs how he did in 2016 and he's stepped up since playoffs.
Yeah, I think current form Xiaohu wins. 2016 Crown versus current Xiaohu.
Yeah, Crown wins hands down.
Hands down. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, if Crown's on form, I think that Samsung is a contender amongst SKT and Longzhu.
Frozen versus Crown.
Crown.
Do you think Crown beats him even on his current form?
I think it's pretty close on his current form, but I think Crown's still a bit better.
Perks versus Xiaohu.
Perks. I think Perks wins.
You think Perks sticks it out? So I actually have Xiaohu above Perks, right above Perks. And the reason is I just think that I have to put Perks a little bit lower because of the situation on G2 this summer. Also, I think that Xiaohu does a lot better considering his jungler is way more coin flip than Trick. I think Trick is really good at covering Perks and helping him out. MLXG has not had a good split. He has not adapted to the meta really well. It's not his meta. We have to admit.
Yeah, it's really not. He's
it's
carry
not.
jungler.
Trick is really good on the current meta. And I think that does make Perks looks better as a player, but I think that Yahoo is better individually.
I disagree. I think in a 1v1 straight 1v1 Perks wins.
I mean, what is it about Perks you think that he does better than Yahoo in the 1v1 specifically?
I mean, it's just euphoria. He's the best in the West, I think. I think Perks, when he's
Oh
on...
my god.
when Perks is performing, he's the best in the West, and I don't think Yahoo stands up to him. I think only BDD, Crown, and Faker can stand up to Perks when he's on form.
Wow, okay, that's... I mean, I love hyping up Perks as much as the next guy. He's one of my favorite players in EU. His personality is amazing to watch. This is definitely going to be a close matchup. Last but not least, we have Group D. We have the rematch of Bjergsen versus Power of Evil.
I think Bjergsen wins this one pretty easily, even though PoE stomps him in international events.
Yeah, the last time Bjergsen met Power of Evil, Bjergsen got solo killed over and over again by his Syndra. Currently, though, I think that Bjergsen is just slightly better than Power of Evil. But the thing is, I don't think Bjergsen's going to stomp Power of Evil, because the way I see it, Bjergsen is just a better Power of Evil. More consistent, more solid, just better. He just has better stats, than Power of Evil.
Yeah.
Then you've got Maple against Power of Evil and Bjergsen, and you've also got Jie. So we have Jie and Maple relatively low compared to the others in the group. We have Power of Evil, obviously the lowest of them. So what do you think, like, the mid lane group in this group, like, what's going to make a mid laner stand out?
I mean, if you look at all the mid laners, wait, which ones are it? It was Bjergsen,
PoE, GA, and and Maple.
Maple. Yeah, if you look at all these mid laners, you don't see a mechanical stomper. Like, you don't see like a Perks or a Cap, someone who's just going to stomp you in lane.
Maple's that guy.
Maybe Maple, yeah, but I mean, the champions he's playing recently aren't champs to stomp lane. He's playing like Corki and stuff. It's not lane dominant champs, but you don't see like someone who can just take over the lane like Caps or something, So I think these are more consistent mid laners against each other, like 4 mid laners who are rocks against each other. So I think it'll be pretty even. I think the only differences you'll see is with Bjergsen.
Okay.
And maybe Maple, possibly.
You think that Bjergsen is the standout player in his group?
Yeah, for sure. I think he does his job better than the rest of them do their job, but it's all the same job, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So Bjergsen's just the better player in most regards. Okay.
Yeah, they all have the same playstyle. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Team-wise, which teams do you think are making it out of groups?
Group D?
Yeah.
It's quite hard to say. I think TSM has a pretty big shot of making out of groups. And I think maybe, I don't know, WE maybe. It's pretty hard to say, just because Mystic and Condi are so good.
Mystic's a fucking beast. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it, I think, for the tier list. We've covered a lot, especially the matchups. I'm definitely really excited for mid laners at Worlds this year. I think that thinking about it is the most exciting role to watch next to AD Carry, and the most stacked. Faker against BDD is going to be the match that everyone's going to be looking for. And Faker's going to destroy BDD, so you're going to be wrong. Or not, or BDD is going to shit on Faker.
I think BDD is he's gonna do pretty well.
I think BDD is going to do great at Worlds. I think it's going to be a long Zoo SKT final.
Hopefully, yeah.
Probably, but this is a really interesting, like, the fact that you've chosen this way. But I can definitely agree with it. I want to thank everyone for coming to watch. Thank you, Caedrel, for coming on with me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And I think I can say everybody's super excited for Worlds, and we're going to have to see. If you guys missed the beginning of the show, don't worry. There will be a VOD uploaded onto YouTube. Caedrel, if anyone wants to follow you on Twitter, as you can see on screen, it's at Caedrel on Twitter. It's right there, at Caedrel. You can follow him on Twitter and get him some followers so that people pay him more money. And where would you rank yourself as in the ULCS next split, assuming it's going to be 10 teams?
With the current mid laners?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's quite hard to say. I mean, I would say top 5.
The correct answer is rank 1.
I mean,
it's always
I
rank
can't say
1.
that on stream, I guess. But yeah, rank 1 for sure.
Yeah, obviously it's better than Perks. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good night.